Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the show. Hi, it's been a while. Uh, as tradition states, you know. Anyways, dude, today we have a phenomenal thing here. Actually, really cool. I got to have a wonderful conversation with Matt Hill. Matt's journey to be impossible is pretty phenomenal. Now, listen, I know it's been only like a month since last time. No promises here, but Matt and I had a really, really long conversation, and I got through about half of it. And this is honestly the first half of our conversation, and it kind of man, it gets in there. I was I got stuck in traffic that day. I wasn't ready for Matt, and Matt had arrived on time, and I had arrived not early enough to get everything turned on and ready to roll. So we just sort of did one of those rolling starts. Matt comes in, uh, launches off with an amazing compliment because that's just the kind of guy he is. And you know the kind of guy I am. I immediately shut that shit down and start with the conversation. But anyways, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for stopping in and listening again. This is Matt Hill. He's an amazing guy, and I hope you really get something out of listening to him.
All day yesterday, I was like anybody else. I was like, I get to meet Russell tomorrow, man. And
No,
I was
shut
no,
up.
I seriously was, dude, because you are such a big inspiration to me. Because
How long have we known each other before you say that?
oh, 6 months maybe,
6 months. Okay. All
maybe I don't remember exactly. I think we'd like comment on each other's stuff, and then we'd start messaging a little bit. But the big piece for me where I was like, this is a dude I need to meet was actually when you were on Mark's podcast for a little bit there. It's been a couple months ago, maybe.
It's been a while.
Has it been a while? Okay. Okay. I couldn't remember. They all kind of flow together for me. But it was when you were on there and you were talking about appetite, because I've always struggled with being overweight my entire life. And even like in the marathon journey and my powerlifting, I mean, one of the things that drew me to powerlifting is I really got to eat to a point as much as I
Weight
wanted.
lose weight,
Yeah,
dog.
exactly. Like our gym's motto is eat big, get big, you know?
Yeah.
So it's something I've always struggled with. And it's something I've always felt like, especially being in this space, that nobody really understood it the way that I understood it. And you talked about appetite, and you said it's not something like, it's not like your stomach growls and you feel hungry and you've got to stuff yourself full. You talked about it as being something in the back of your head.
Right.
And that is exactly how I've always felt about it. And so you were the first person that I've ever heard talk about it and understand it and feel it in that same way. And, you know, in a lot of ways, not that I wouldn't necessarily say my weight is the thing is the most intense struggle I've had in life, but it is one of the continual struggles that I've not been able to fully overcome or feel like I've gained true success in. And I've been in a good path here recently where, you know, I'm slowly getting better. But still, it's one of those daily things that I keep struggling with, keep having failures, keep having setbacks, and keep needing to get back on the right path. And it's just this weird thing that I have so much discipline in so many areas.
Right.
And then it's like, this is the one thing that for some reason I just can't seem to turn it off or seem to push it away, you know? So it's, hearing your perspective on that and hearing that, like, you understand it that way when you said, like, it's something in the back of my brain. Like, that's exactly what I've always felt too.
Yeah, it's not a rumble in the tummy.
No.
I feel it back here
Yeah,
somewhere.
that's
Like,
exactly where I
like a
feel.
buzz.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's, for me, it's almost like a anxiety type feeling where it's just like, if you have those moments where you're like, you can walk into a big buffet and you feel like, oh my gosh, like I need to make sure I get enough food here. Like it's just kind of a weird thing. Like now I'm not a person who's very anxious at all in general. In fact, I'm a little too chill, a little too laid back sometimes if you ask my wife. But there's something about when I'm hungry that it creates this like anxiety piece, and I feel like I have to just go overboard to correct it. And honestly, like, I've had moments where, because I used to suffer really bad from like binge eating disorder, and I've, for the most part, overcome that. But when it was bad, especially back when I was struggling with alcohol at the same time, I would have these like almost like out of body experiences watching myself like, and it was, I would even think about, I was like, this is like a drug addict where like I would go through these painful measures to put all this food together possible. And then I would like watch myself eat all this food and like knowing it consciously, I shouldn't be doing this. Like, this is not good for me. This is not healthy. But here I am watching myself do it, you know. It's like I've had those moments and you know, fortunately I've been able to work through a lot of that disorder. But even still, you know, it's like you hear lots of people talk about online and on podcasts and stuff, especially in this space, they'll say, and I hear this all the time where people say, you can't overeat clean food. It's like, I'm here to tell you, I can overeat clean
What's
food.
your
Like,
definition of
yeah,
clean?
well, and that's true
Is
too.
rice
Yeah,
clean?
yeah, and that's
I mean, I can crush
that's
rice.
that. I'm the same way.
I can crush
I'm the
rice.
same way. I did an experiment. This has been a couple years ago, probably, where I did it, where you know I'd heard people saying that and stuff, and so I gave myself a day where I ate nothing but lean meat, potatoes, fruit, vegetables,
Yeah.
absolutely nothing. But I let myself eat to satisfaction. So I wasn't even like trying to eat to being super full. I wasn't trying to cram in as much food
Yeah.
as possible. I was
Intuitive
just
eating, I've heard it
exactly,
called.
exactly.
Intuitive eating.
So when I ate entirely intuitively, which most people would call those foods pretty clean, more or less.
The cleanest.
Yeah. I ate, and I tracked everything. I ate 5,400 calories that day.
Oh wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just passively.
That's a big swing.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm
So,
not. I mean,
yeah.
props.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
a good one.
Yeah. It's just so it shows me, you know, I won't say there's no days that I don't need to eat that much, especially now that I'm endurance running.
Sure.
But I would say 99% of the time, I never need that many calories.
Sure.
And that was just my passive, quote unquote, appetite, all clean food. And I ate that much. So to me, it just highlights that I think for some people, there's just a difference there. And I think for me, I don't necessarily have much of an off switch.
No, I just curious because because it's 2023 and
Yeah.
anything anybody says, you have to pick apart every minutia.
Oh, absolutely.
How much meat was that day? Do you remember?
If I looked back far enough in my tracking app, I could probably pull it up. I wanted to say I was north of 300 grams of protein.
Okay.
So definitely a
What kind
lot of
meat were you
protein.
eating? Was it chicken and beef or just
Yeah,
beef?
chicken and beef. I tend to keep to the leaner side. So I'm a guy, I've played with this for probably 7 or 8 years now, and I actually got deep into nutrition through Mark's podcast
Yeah.
and starting to listen to it.
Yeah.
And I have a doctorate of pharmacy degree, so I have a lot of training in human physiology
you
and biochemistry.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, what a smart
Yeah.
man you are.
Well, it's I enjoyed my time in school. I enjoyed the material I learned, and I'll be honest
to
with
be
you.
smart, dude.
Well,
To be smart. I wish I was smart.
it was something that, you know, I think we're all smart in the things we're passionate about because we have a drive to go for it.
You sound like a smart guy.
Well, you know,
I learned this a long time
Yeah.
ago. I'm smart enough to know I'm not that smart. And I have to
Yeah.
make peace with that because
Yeah.
when I pretend, I think if you yeah, I don't like to expound too much on my own lack of intellectual prowess, but yeah, I'm smart enough to know I'm not that smart. But you know what? That doesn't mean I can't learn.
Oh,
I can
absolutely.
I can still learn from smart people like you.
absolutely.
And Mark.
Yeah, I think we've all got, our natural inclinations and our natural gifts.
Yeah.
And mine was never, ever athletics, even though that's one of the things I enjoy the most.
Uh-huh.
I was always a little more academically gifted.
Uh-huh.
And so I did, I was able to perform well in those areas. And then, I've really had to work for everything athletically that I've ever gotten because I'm not super athletically inclined.
Yeah.
But so, I think we all just have our natural inclinations, but going through that process, I got pretty good training in human biochemistry, human physiology, and really got to learn a lot
Wow.
about that world. And so I coupled that understanding with diving deep into nutrition. And so because I felt like, well, if I can just learn the secret, then I'll fix my weight. And I had the foundation from the scientific knowledge. And so all I needed to do was do the research, and after years and years and years of that, what I came to as well, ultimately, I don't think there really is any one right way. It's just kind of what works best for that individual. I do think there's some overlying principles that we definitely know are helpful to most people in most cases,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think anybody could come on here and say like this is absolutely the one singular only way that works for everybody.
Sure. I mean, other than you have to be within your caloric
Yeah,
guidelines and
absolutely,
reach essential
absolutely.
protein limits.
Yeah.
After that,
It's kind of
and essential protein is
Yeah.
there's such a variance anywhere from like half a gram to or what, like maybe 1 gram to kilogram or
Yeah.
all the way up to
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to try to blend it
Yeah.
pounds. There's a wide range,
Yeah.
right? Half a gram to pound all the way up to like 1.2 1.6
Yeah.
is like people the protein leveraging seems to be the only thing that's really helping me have a fighting chance to not just want to eat myself to death.
Yeah.
It that seems to work, but the last like 3 or 4 days I've been really just allowing too much rice in my life.
Yeah.
And you think, oh, just cut back. Yeah, just cut back.
Yeah.
Right. So easy. Just cut back. Yeah, I'm trying. I'm at like 70 pounds down now.
That's incredible.
That's good. I don't think it's incredible, but it's good.
But how long's it been though? Since
Couple years.
Yeah. No, I think that's incredible because I tell this to people all the time. It's like think about how long it took you to put that weight on.
Sure.
And like if you anything you do to like take it off faster than you put it on, like that's incredible. And not only that, but speed almost doesn't even matter as long as you can make that consistent progress. Like every year you look back and you're better than you were the year before.
That's really where I'm trying to just find my own personal serenity. Just people like a good guy that trains here, someone I have a lot of respect for, is Bill. He asked me like, what's your goals? And I said it in this order because I really kind of think I mean it in this order: move better, lose weight, get stronger.
Absolutely.
I think that's what I mean. I mean, it wasn't really, I mean, sure, my weight had a big part of why I stopped moving around so much, but I had stopped moving so much in part because of my weight, but
Yeah.
that just fundamental, like basic movement was starting to become an issue.
Yeah.
Basic like mobility and stamina to walk around
Yeah.
was really starting to become an issue for me, and it was tragic, but I didn't know how to get out of it. I just didn't know how to get out of it. I was eating myself into the grave. It was frustrating, and I had such an awareness like this is wrong.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah.
And yet I was still passively allowing myself to make bad decisions. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I am excited to continue to lose weight, continue to try to be like a light of reminder and encouragement to people that you are not as far gone as you think you are. It's not about getting to your once former glory. Just go out, find the best who you can be today. I over and over again, and I keep hearing it from all level of people, and it's honestly really interesting to me when I hear it from like really fit athletic people about oh, I don't feel it like I used to. Oh, I can't do that like I used to. I can't. And I keep thinking like that is such a that seems to be such a universal issue. I can't get to where I was, so I almost don't even want to try anymore.
Yeah.
Well, hey, guess what? If you do that, if you stop because you can't reach your former self of athletic prowess, you want to, you just want to give up on the whole thing. Well, I got bad news for you.
Yeah.
Hey, you're only going to get even further from where you were. Like, I want to be an advocate of people trying to maintain and try to find their best health way beyond, their former greatness of being 23.
Absolutely.
And we were all so athletic at
Yeah.
23 compared to where we are right now.
Yeah.
It's just a reality.
Yeah.
And I want people to take recognition and pride in just making daily efforts to try to get better. Just, be a little bit more, and if you're a parent, be a little bit more present for your kid. Show your kid you can still be healthy. Try a big part of my motivation for all of this is I have two young boys, and I want my young boys to, I mean, they seem in so many ways so unprepared for adulthood as it relates to being physically fit.
Yeah.
They're just riding on the steam of just being young, and all they want to do is just sit and play on their Switch.
Yeah.
It's all they want to do.
Yeah.
And all but making them say, hey, pick a sport, which I don't. Do you
That's
make
a tough.
kid play a sport?
Yeah,
Do you make a kid play a sport?
it's
What
tough.
do you think?
It's tough. So I was one of those kids. I was forced to play like, and I mean I wouldn't say forced, but like I was pretty much told, you're gonna play this, you're gonna do this, and it was like every sport. Like I was in baseball, football, basketball, track, like everything, all the way up through junior high until high school. And by then, I was so burnt out on it. I was done with it. Like I didn't want to do it. Like not only just like the physical effort, I don't ever remember that being an issue because, like you say, you're young and it doesn't really bother you much. But it was just the time commitment. It was never something I was interested in. And I think for me, it was I was never taught. I was just told this is something you're going to do. I was never taught that, hey, this is something that can make you better. Like this is why we want you to do this. And I think, and kids are tough for me to speak on. I don't have any of my own. Although we're working towards that, but so I don't want to sound like an expert, but I think just humans in general, we have to have a strong understanding of why we're doing something. And so I think, I know it's not always easy to convey that to kids, but I think as much as we can instill that into people, and then not only that, but like help show them that like this is like a power they have, a type of control they have, and that like this is something you can do that will make you better. And, let me show you like exactly the process, the why, the how of what we're doing here. And I think it may not always initially rub off on them, but I think just that continued exposure over and over and over again, it will seed that into their, kind of into their subconscious a little bit. A great story I like to tell is where I trained at Monsters Bent Barbell in Parkersburg, West Virginia. It is just, it's an incredible environment, an incredible gym full of incredible people. And there's always kids in there. Everybody will bring their kids. We've got a big playpen set up, and the men and women will come out. The moms will be there, and they'll be all taking care of the kids, and they'll trade out sets with each other. And it depends on the age of the kids. But one of my really good friends from there, his name's Paul, and Paul's a big, strong dude. He hasn't been powerlifting that long, but he's already got some big numbers on the board. And he had started bringing his son in when he came in. But he never told his son to do anything. Like he just said, do whatever you want. If you need to sit here, you can sit here. And at the very beginning, his son would come in and bring his Switch in, and he would just be buried in it the entire time. And it's been maybe a year and a half now. So it's been a good little bit of time. But slowly over time, for some reason, I just like would notice and watch Paul's son. And his son's, I don't want to get the age wrong, somewhere between like 10 and 13, somewhere in that age. And over time, he would like look up more and more and more, especially when he saw his dad doing some pretty cool, big, heavy lifts. And then all of a sudden, this has been maybe 3 weeks ago, there was one day where Paul and I were training and we were doing this big like drop set on tricep pull downs with the rope. And his son came over, and on the other side of the cable machine, there was a tricep pulled out. And he grabbed it and just started going to town on it.
You know what? God bless the tricep cable pull down. It is every man's favorite exercise. Don't you feel so powerful when you're like, yeah, let's take him down?
Oh man.
That's by far like of course that's the first one you did. It's kind of easy to access.
Yep.
Easy to do wrong, so you can use your chest and feel even stronger than you really are.
And it makes your arms look big.
That's great. Good for him. Yeah. You know what?
Yeah.
As he should.
Yeah.
As he should do that one first.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I loved it. And he sat there. I'm not kidding you. Now, he had super light weight on, and like you say, he wasn't using any kind of form or technique.
Fantastic.
But he did it for 45 minutes straight.
Oh, wow.
And we were just,
wow.
but Paul didn't say anything. And then afterwards, he had a talk with him and said, "Hey, great job in there today. I was really proud to see you doing that."
Oh, see,
And
dude,
so it was like,
what a great dad. I wish I was so chill.
Well,
I'm not chill at all.
yeah, I thought it was just so cool because it was like, Paul never told him he had to do it, never told him he had to do
Right.
anything. He let him sit there and play his video game, but just by prolonged, continued exposure in the right
push was
environment.
to put him in the right spot.
Exactly.
Not to let him, not even to pull him away from the switch. Just
Yeah,
put
just
him
put him
around the gym.
Yeah, in the right, yeah, exactly. Because there's that old adage of you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Sure.
And so whenever you I'm sure you understand from being here and being around this crew here,
Yeah.
it makes you want to be a better person.
It does.
And so I think Paul somehow knew that, and now it's to the point where his son woke, because every Saturday we squat heavy. It's just something we do at our gym. And his son last weekend woke Paul up at 6:30 and asked, "When are we going to the gym?" And so now it's been this total 180 of his son is waking Paul up to go to the gym, So it's so cool. And I don't know if that necessarily gives us all the answers,
Wow.
but
That's so great.
it's one massive success story, I think. And now that kid, even if he grows up and falls out of the gym, at least he's got that little bit built into his subconscious now that if he ever gets in a tricky point in life with his health, he'll be at least somewhat familiar with that environment.
Yeah, that's great. I see Bill bring his son here every weekend, and I finally sort of figured out the secret sauce of what Bill's doing compared to what I've tried doing in the past. I've always tried bringing my boys here and then sort of training together.
Yeah.
And I've had a little bit of success doing that, but I see what Bill does is he brings his son and then Bill trains and then he runs his son through a little bit of training too.
Okay.
And he might side by side with his son a little bit on his portion, but
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that at least for my eldest. From now on, I'm bringing him here on the weekends. And if my youngest, I'll kind of make it maybe I make it some sense of a point of pride. Are you ready to start coming down with us and, getting up early? My kids it's summer right now.
Yeah.
I woke up my youngest at 7:30 the other day, and he's so exhausted. And I just thought, hey, I just thought they're getting to bed too late.
Yeah.
And our family dynamics is Mama usually puts them to bed. I usually get them up out of bed. And I was like, well, if you want them to go to bed earlier, you got to wake them up earlier.
Yeah.
My son's he's just crying. No one said a single word to him. No one's raised a voice to him. No one's put any risk of consequences to lose. So I just said, hey man, this is just a good example today.
Yep.
You don't have to move fast.
Yeah.
You don't have to move fast. Just move slow.
Yeah.
Just move slow. And he's just crying and he's trying and I think there was hope that day I was going to bring him to the gym, but it fell apart. So we're gonna have to try again.
Yeah.
We'll just have to try again.
Yeah.
We started diving into a really important conversation as you walked in, and that's on me. I wasn't quite ready for you to come in here yet. Construction, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You had told me, which I've seen just a little bit on your Instagram profile, but you had told me you had just recently launched your own podcast. Can you now that I'm a little bit more tuned in, because you saw me, I was sitting here looking everywhere at the time.
You're good.
Can you tell me about that again so I can listen to you a little better?
Yeah, absolutely. So I own a business called Impossible Performance, through which I do a lot of public speaking. We've done some coaching as well individually, but we like to move more towards the public speaking because we can hit a larger crowd all at once. And through that business, we have now officially launched as of June 24th, our podcast called The Impossible. It's available for streaming on all platforms, and we have now 3 episodes up and a couple more in the pipeline coming out. And really what it is, because if you're familiar with my story at all, I lost my leg to a very rare, very aggressive form of pediatric cancer when I was 18 years old. And at the end, I had complications with chemotherapy, eating a hole through my colon, and I went into massive infection, septic shock, and very nearly died. But I had to get part of my colon removed and go through a lot of rehabilitation. But in that time, I was always able to like far exceed any expectations of any physician. And, you know, to the point that they told me it'd be 6 months inpatient rehab if I ever learned to walk again. And then I started walking 2 weeks later.
Wow.
And so, you know, I've always said that that story is not a testament to me, but it's more testament to something within the human spirit.
Right.
And so my whole life's purpose and mission has been to try to unlock exactly what that is and bring it to people and show people, hey, this exists within you as well. Anything that seems impossible that you face, you can be impossible. You can build yourself into a better, stronger human being. And through that, you can do the impossible. And so I've done that in my life, you know, a few different times. When I came off of the life support machine I was on, the doctors told me I would maybe never function again, mentally or physically independently.
Oh, it's so scary, dude.
And it was, you know, they'd come in and they'd give me physical and mental evaluations. And physically, I couldn't lift my own arm to scratch my nose. That's one of my earliest memories of coming out of a coma. And then mentally, I'd have occupational therapists come in and give me tests that were like kindergarten or first grade level. You know, they'd ask me to name 5 words that start with the letter B, and I couldn't do it. And I would be like consciously aware that I should be able to do this, but I couldn't do it. It was like I had my consciousness available to me, but what the output was like the psyche of a 3-year-old almost. The first time I got to taste water after that, I told my family it tasted like Christmas. It was just because it was that very like young brain, like that's the only descriptor I could come up with for it. And so after that, throughout my life, it's now been 10 years, and I was able to go on and get a doctorate degree. So, you know, mentally I'm doing pretty okay. And physically I've been able to I've run 2 half marathons now. I've deadlifted over 500 pounds. I've squatted full depth 300 pounds as a one-legged guy.
That's, dude.
And
it's so incredible, dude. That's so incredible. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
You. That is so impressive, bro. That is so impressive.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. And that's the thing is it's impossible. But like what I've always told people is it's not necessarily that I'm unique in this way and that I have access to being able to do this stuff and everyone else doesn't. I've always truly felt that this is something that exists within everybody. And it can be harnessed and used by everybody. I think because of the particular crucible of situation I was in, it, you know, kind of came out of me a little more rapidly than maybe in some other cases. But really, this podcast is the culmination of that entire life's purpose and my experience and everything to help find these stories of people who have faced the impossible, become impossible, and done the impossible. Because you'd be amazed at how many stories there are out there that highlight just that. And so even within my own gym, my own personal community, we've already got a list of just, you know, more guests than we feel like we can get on right now of people that can tell those kind of stories. And so that's really what it will be is just this avenue for highlighting these stories. So just like the story I just told, but from other perspectives.
Sure.
And what lessons can we pull from that, and how can we implement those lessons into our own lives?
What are some of the lessons you've learned?
So one of the big ones is we just recently had the owner of the gym I train at on there. He's an incredible human being, but he's battled a lot of challenge in his life as well. You know, he got divorced at a young age and, you know, kind of all but lost his son. In the process, you know, his wife did everything she could to, I think, take away his rights to see his son. And he fell into heavy alcoholism for 10 years after that and got to some pretty low spots and was not able to, you know, come out of it very easily. But eventually he was able to get sober. He started the gym. This has just been 5 years ago. He started this gym that we train at, quickly upgraded to a new facility, the one we're in now, and we're looking to upgrade again. But just a couple of years in, when things were really starting to go well, he blew both quads on a what to him was a relatively easy lift. It was like 410 pounds. He was still like warming up even to get to his working sets. But it was just one of those things. something moved wrong, something shifted wrong, and you just hear pop, pop, and both quads go out. So then he's, just a few years into recovery, things are just starting to get to a good, stable turning point with the gym, and all of a sudden, his main positive, healthy coping mechanism gets stripped from him. And I remember that day because I had just started training there. I wasn't there when he blew his quads, but I was there shortly after. And, I think he had some rough times in the hospital, but then one day I'm in there training, and here he is getting wheeled in a wheelchair, both legs fixated, locked out straight. And I watched this man climb onto a bench press and start benching. And it was less than a week after he blew his quads. And so I saw that. And then you see the leader of your gym doing that. And I'm like, oh man, like that had a powerful impact on me, because I was like, that right there is impossible. Like that's what that is. And, so he goes through all the rehab, gets recovered from that, gets back to squatting heavy, and he wants to squat more than he did before the tear, which I think he was going for like 700 something before he blew the quads out. And, it took him a few years, but he started working back towards everything. And then he squatted 500 pounds in competition this past December. And then in February, he starts noticing some health issues. Blood work's looking a little off, having just a few symptoms, just don't seem quite right. Starts going to doctor after doctor after doctor. It takes about 4 months, but eventually he sends me these test results of a bone marrow biopsy. And long story short, it's cancer. And so at first we thought it was a type of cancer called mantle cell, which is a very, very aggressive one. It's tough to battle, and the average life expectancy is like 2 to 5 years for it. And he's only 47 years old. So that's what we were told at first, and he lived in a little bit of time where he's thinking, he's one of those guys, he's got a powerful enough mindset, he's not going to constrain himself to any sort of limitation. But at the same time, all of a sudden he's faced with, my life is going to be a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be. Yeah. And very fortunately, we found out he was originally misdiagnosed, and he actually has something called hairy cell leukemia, which is one that's much, much, much more manageable. I still don't think there's like an official cure for it, but it's one that's so treatable.
They can just sort of put it into remission. Is
yeah.
That what it's called?
They can hit it with a pretty lightweight drug for 6 months and knock it into remission. Usually that remission lasts like 10 years. And then once it comes out, they can hit it again. It's just such a slow growing cancer that, it's pretty easy to buy people multiple decades.
Oh,
and not to belittle it, because he still has cancer, but it's just one of those things where it seems like once things finally get back on track, you get knocked down.
And there's no easy cancer treatment.
No.
There's no easy,
not at all.
No.
Not at all. And so the big thing we learned from him, and this is something I think I've been realizing but wasn't able to put it into words with my journey in the past 8 months or so, is that he talked about like living in alignment with what you're supposed to be doing. So the way I term it is living in alignment with your passion and your purpose. And when you're doing that, you're doing the consistent daily work you need to be doing every day. Things come together for you. Things happen how they're supposed to. And I'm not a big believer in necessarily like destiny and that everything's predetermined or anything like that. But I think regardless of the situation, regardless what happens to you, you can take a mindset of this is supposed to happen. And I'm going to find a way that I can convince myself this was supposed to happen. So I bring that to even the smallest things. Like I get cut off in traffic, or I'm late to work, or whatever it is. I said, all right, universe, game on.
People have been tackling this question for a long time.
Oh yeah,
a long time.
Oh, absolutely.
How much is free will? How much is fate? That's unavoidable fate.
Yeah.
I'm super madly in love with my wife, and I adore my 2 boys. So many steps until I got to here, I really wish hadn't gone the way they went.
Yeah.
I wish I'd made a lot of decisions different in life.
Yeah.
But which one of those decisions would have not had this outcome.
Oh yeah.
You know, like
Exactly.
I wouldn't trade either kid or wife in for anybody else in the world.
Yeah.
And somehow I'm here, right?
Yeah.
My shortcomings as this guy or shortcomings as that guy has led me to have I have somehow, through a little bit of intentionality and some luck and by the grace of God, you know, I have stumbled onto a really fun life right now.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful. It's just not where I need it to be. I don't near feel ready for retirement.
Yeah.
I don't feel ready for senior age when my own personal health.
Yeah.
You know, I have still much to do in this world.
Yeah.
But I like where I'm at, and I like where I'm heading.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that somehow
Yeah.
that path got you here, right?
Yeah.
And you have to make peace with your regrets and just sort of accept them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, I think you actually also have to take a little bit of personal responsibility for being where you are right now. And in that you need to be proud of yourself because you know, for all the things you're not proud of that you've done in life, those things you've either turned around and overcome, or you've consistently worked at becoming or being better at them. And you've made a lot of good, positive choices and a lot of good, positive change in your life that has led you here.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you can say that obviously, you know, you didn't have control over every situation, but you actually had a lot of power and a lot of control and a lot of influence over where you are today.
Absolutely.
And so I think you should be incredibly proud of that because in a very large part, you've helped to build this life for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I talk about is, you know, like I almost kind of look at it as like a little bit of a challenge to the universe because I'm a very competitive person. And so I say, you know, something goes wrong, like this morning you talk about your car is running out of gas, whatever it is, everything.
Two gas stations by my house are closed.
Exactly.
I got to like drive 5 miles out of the way.
Yeah. All these things that are seemingly wrong or bad, quote unquote, that we'd put on them. And this is something I've just been getting into is like immediately like reframing that and saying like, okay, universe, game on. Like I'm going to find a way to convince myself that this was supposed to happen.
Yeah,
I'm going to find a way to bring good from this situation.
Those yelling at the wind moments in life.
Yeah. And if nothing else, it just gets me fired up. And rather than getting like angry and into this like victimhood mindset, which just doesn't serve anything, you know, because whether it was actually supposed to happen or not, it's really kind of irrelevant. But the impact on your mindset is entirely relevant. Because if you can find a way that there was good from this and this was supposed to happen, then, oh my gosh, like it makes you that much more motivated and it makes you, in a way, almost grateful that the things in your life happen the way they do.
Such a blend. To be able to talk through and about your feelings, to be able to acknowledge your sufferings and your uncomforts, but to not let that become a chain that holds you back.
Exactly.
And I think I'm starting to notice in people, some people, they really don't want you to share with them your whatever those uncomfortable feelings are, because either they feel they're dealing with it too, and maybe they're like a little callous to it. No one really cares when I talk about it, so I don't want to care when you talk about it. Or sometimes there's another thing, they're afraid that you're going to use that as a reason to limit yourself. And they don't want to feel like they're enabling your self limitations, right? I'd like to think that there's a sweet spot where you can hear someone's stress, you can hear their uncomfortness, let them get it out, and maybe it's because it takes more time to get there. But let them get to the point where, man, it really hurts, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm really going through it today. I can't seem to engage. And then, you know, let them go. But I still have things to do today. But I still have things to do today. Or you know, it's a hard spot to, you know, yeah, I hate to just keep bringing it back to being a dad, but I guess it's the binoculars I view the world with.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I was telling you with my kid, he's sitting there crying because he's so tired.
Yeah.
It's a hard spot to go, hey, I know you're tired, and then just let him sit and melt in your arms for 40 minutes, or to go, or you go, I don't want to hear about it, handle your business, or just say, hey, dude, I know you're tired. Just move slow.
Yeah.
Just move slow.
Yeah, and I think that's such a huge piece, is especially for kids, because and I only know this, or at least for me, that would have been so huge, is to know that it was okay to feel what I was feeling.
Yeah.
Because I think at that time, I just felt weak. Because
You're how old at this time?
I was 18 when I had cancer. By this time, when I started drinking and using alcohol
Almost
to
21.
deal with my issues, I was like 20, 21, right
Yeah.
around there.
And you felt weak of body, weak of mind?
I felt weak because, my parents and to a large extent my community, we deal with pain and suffering and troubles. A lot of people deal with it with alcohol. There's a lot of bad alcohol issues there. But also it's just one of those things. We come from one of those like strong Catholic farming communities. It's a wonderful community. I got such an outpouring of support from them. I can never ever speak highly enough of that community. But there is kind of this mindset of just like, it's hard to explain, but you just need to put on this face of being fine. And like, I felt like, because I'd always seen this, I'd never seen people go through emotional struggle or emotional pain or emotional hardship. And so I felt guilty that I wasn't just fine. But I did put on that face, and I was good at it. I learned to be a very good actor.
Yeah.
And that's something I, to a point, still carry today. And I can throw on this like totally fine persona. And not that it's different from who I am, but I can really bury that down and hide it. And that was not helping me. And in a lot of ways, especially back then, I think I got a lot of discord built up in myself, and that I was, to the world, I was being a totally different person than I actually was and who I felt like.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have anybody that I felt like I could or should share that with. And not only that, but I didn't have anybody that, even if I did share it with them, they had no frame of perspective to be able to understand.
So you didn't have anybody, you had community in your life?
Yes.
You had people, you had colleagues, you had friends.
Yeah.
But no one that you felt like you could share, hey, I feel broken inside.
Yeah.
Because there's a little bit of too, like, you don't want people to lose respect for you, right? You don't,
exactly.
Whatever admiration or sense of like appreciation people have for you or your character, you don't want to go, no, actually, I'm a complete wreck inside.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was,
I don't know if you, I think I can relate. I think a lot of people can relate. They don't want people to know how broken they actually do feel inside.
Yeah. And here's the biggest piece that I was missing from all that. And it's just something I've started to learn to realize. It's the additional piece is like, I want to be the strong person. I don't feel like I'm the strong person. And actually, I feel like I'm broken inside. And the piece that I needed to add to that was, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to be broken. It's okay to be beaten. It's okay to feel like you don't have answers. You don't have things figured out. Now, it's not okay to just sit there and not do anything about it and let yourself keep moving in a worse direction. But the reason I never moved in a better direction was because I felt like it wasn't okay. And in this weird way, I felt like me being in this position, not just naturally being okay with everything that was going on inside of me, not just naturally having control over everything. I never realized that that was okay. And that, in fact, okay, let's work to change that. Let's work to do something better. I always felt that I just needed to, or that I just naturally should be better. And when I wasn't okay and when I wasn't better, that's when I would turn to alcohol, because it could shut that off on me inside of my brain.
Yeah.
And it would make me, quote unquote, okay.
But so, you start slipping away into the drinking.
Yeah.
Does it come to like a culminating event, or did you just sort of get tired of being tired of it?
Well, so it was interesting for me that with alcohol, the initial use of it was turn off that turn off that piece of my brain, those demons that are haunting me,
Okay.
silence them slowly, because like I said earlier, I had learned to thrive under immense, extreme pressure, like a life or death situation. When that was removed from me, I could not handle normal life.
Yeah.
And ever since then, even still today, and I've reconciled and become okay with it today, but I'm not a person that is just okay getting up, going to work or going to school, coming home,
common.
watching a little TV, and then going to bed.
Yeah.
I find zero purpose in that. And I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
If that is fulfilling to you in your life, that's amazing. I think that's incredible and you should pursue that. But for me, since then, that has never been something I've been able to find any level of purpose or fulfillment in.
You have a higher calling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And well, I don't even want to say higher calling, because again, I say there's nothing wrong with that. Like if you're somebody who that is totally fulfilling, like you are fully comfortable and happy and at peace, and you feel fulfilled with that, I don't believe there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair pushback. Similarly, I've lost touch with a friend. His name was Vince.
Yeah.
Vince was miserable 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But man, if he's filling sandbags at Katrina
Yeah.
or helping with wells in Africa, he never felt more alive.
Yeah.
But then the moment he's back to 9 to 5,
Yeah.
the guy was just he was just miserable existing.
And that's exactly how I am.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there's a right or wrong way. I think it's just people are different. You know,
Yeah.
you need to, and I'm a very, like I said, I'm a very purpose driven, very growth driven person. And I'm not somebody who can just be satisfied and be okay with where I am in life. I always want to keep doing, keep growing, keep being. And I even hate saying these words of like being more, because again, like I'm not trying to say that I'm better than or that I need more than most people need. But I guess maybe in a way that's true. I feel like I need something different. I need something different that satisfies that purpose need in myself. And, you know, I think anybody can be more regardless of the situation they're in. Like if you're somebody who just is totally comfortable with the 9 to 5 gig, you come home, you watch a little TV, you hang out on the weekends, you know, you do whatever. You can always be more to the people in your life. You can always be more. Yeah, you can always be more at that 9 to 5. So I guess I do think we should always want to be more, do more, grow stronger and better. And then the difference comes in what is that world for you? What is that situation? What is that community that you're having influence over? Right. So I guess maybe that's the distinction for me. But I've just never felt comfortable with just like day-to-day life. I have to have something to fight against, to struggle against, to feel like I have to have something that I feel like I can overcome. And to me, you know, after the cancer experiences, just going to class and stuff, I could not invest myself in it.
Is not enough on your GPA. You needed more than just that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I felt, especially after I just spent, you know, a year and a half clawing, scratching, fighting desperately for my life.
Yeah.
And then now I'm supposed to put that same level of energy and effort into getting straight A's. Like it just like, to me, it's like we're not even playing the same game anymore. You know,
you're not.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not.
Yeah. And I liken it to, and I sometimes hate to make this comparison because I don't understand the situation, what I'm comparing it to. But to me and some of the people I've talked to who have faced this, I think it's a similar situation to, you know, soldiers who go over and experience active duty. They're experience combat. That, you know, they're in these situations where they're in these insane, high stakes, extreme environments, and then, you know, I think a lot of them learn to thrive in those situations, and then they come home and they're expected to do the 9 to 5 or do normal life, and a lot of them struggle very heavily with PTSD issues, and that's
you know, dude. I have a friend who will remain nameless. We exchanged some old gaming buddy of mine. I haven't really been playing video games much the last 3-4 months. Just I don't seem to know how to do that well and to not have everything else that's important in my life not fall apart.
Yeah.
So I've had to make some choices lately. But there's a few relationships I really miss.
Yeah.
Some friends, that you meet on the online in the game chat, right? And one recently shared with me struggling.
Yeah.
A lot of PTSD, a lot of lack of purpose. And I know how capable, I know how smart, I know how charismatic, I know how good looking, how athletic, how qualified this man is to be a contributing member to society. And you just get this sense like right now he's not sure where to find it.
Yeah.
And he was doing all the hard stuff. And I mean, who knows how far that rabbit hole goes down. We've never shared, but I know he was out there really doing it to some degree.
Yeah.
Serving country and for God and country and all that stuff, right? And it just seems like he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart. And it completely seems to be this sense of purpose. Like how do I find that? And also too, again, maybe the guy was natural leader, athletic, good decision maker, keeps his head under stress. Maybe not the kind of guy that really wants to spend 2 hours studying for this degree, or maybe he's not the kind of guy that wants to just bite his tongue when someone's really disrespectful to him at work, because he's been there, he's done that, and show him some respect and maybe navigating the stresses of today's political work environment best. But I think there's a lot of people out there right now trying to find a way to stay plugged into a higher calling. I know when I used to go to church really frequently, this was your life's purpose was always a big topic on here. You're in your early 20s. Are you maintaining your course to graduate with your degree on time, or is it sort of falling off the cliff?
Yeah, so I'm totally holding up, quote unquote, to the responsibilities.
But no one knows every night
paper.
you're blacking yourself out.
I mean, there's some people that know, like I have some friends that are drinking pretty heavy with me, but it was one of those weird situations. And for a long time, I didn't recognize that I was an alcoholic or that I had an issue, because when you're in college, lots of people are drinking a lot.
It's celebrated.
Almost every. Yeah, exactly.
It's the celebrating is celebrated.
Exactly. So to me, I don't think I ever really saw that, like, wow, this is really weird or different or out of the normal, because I had other people that were kind of aware of it. Some of them were doing it with me, but I quickly became known as that guy who could go harder than other people.
Oh, okay.
And so that's where the transition point to alcohol came, in that, I was drinking to shut my brain off.
Yeah.
And then somewhere along the way, more and more, I realized, alcohol is something I can struggle against. It's something I can suffer against.
Oh, wow.
Because
it turned into your arm wrestle.
How
deep can I go into the depths of it tonight?
Oh, it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, and it got bad because I got to the point where I would show up to a party with a brand new half-gallon bottle of liquor. Kraken was the one I would use. It was like a rum, but it's like 49% alcohol, and I would drink it straight out of the bottle and see if I could drink a whole bottle.
Wow.
And nobody can do that. Like, nobody. So in a weird, sick, twisted, messed up way, I was doing this thing of like really testing myself. How far can I push it? How far can I go?
Yeah.
And again, in a really weird, sick, twisted way, that gave me some level of purpose.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And so it was just, it was that first thing that I found. And, there's definitely stories along the way of where things started turning, where things got bad. I had some moments where I did lose control, and, you like black out and you wake up in your own vomit, things like that. Like things that, some of the things I'm most ashamed of in my whole life, looking back, occurred during those times. And throughout all of that, I stayed functional. I stayed in accordance with all of my responsibilities of life, and I was able to hide it pretty well. So when I realized that I did have an alcohol issue, I would call myself, well, like I was a functional alcoholic was the term I used.
Sure.
And if people want to use that term, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But for me, over time, I realized, I hadn't let it get to the point that I was like missing class or like
I think it's a fair
was my
descriptive word.
grades.
I think alcoholism is a spectrum.
Yeah, oh, it
And
absolutely
I think that's
is.
a fair
It
descriptive
absolutely is. But I guess when I look back, I don't see myself as a functional human being in that time.
Sure.
And so
That's a good point.
I struggle with calling it that because compared to who I am now and what I'm able to do now, I don't consider myself like I in no way was I serving others or serving the world at that
Right.
time. I was purely escaping myself.
Yeah.
And I never had a moment where I like hit rock bottom and I was like, this can't go on any further and this is the day I change, and then I stopped drinking forever from then. That moment never occurred for me. I definitely had some very bad moments, but none that were like startling or shocking or striking enough to like light that spark in me. But what had happened for me that started turning the course here, so this was coming into school of 2017. I'd been drinking really heavy and doing all this stuff over the summer of 2017. I had actually started working at Nationwide Children's Hospital, which is where I was treated, got all my chemo treatment and everything like that. And that was a pretty powerful experience. And that's the hospital I almost died in.
Does pediatrics have a particular pull for you, or not so much?
The patients do. The job of healthcare does not.
Sure.
But the patients do. Like
Yeah.
that's where, when I see the kids, and that's who I'm really one of the big people I'm trying to help with this message, and that's who I'm raising money for through the marathon that I'm doing now, is those kids who are facing today what I faced 10 years ago, and show them that yes, there is a path forward. There is life after this. You can discover your passion and purpose and live out your dreams. Like you don't have to fall apart after this like I did.
That's sick. Hey, I have to pee.
Oh, I do too.
Let's go
You're all
ahead.
good. Let's take a break.
pee.
Yeah.
We'll come back. We'll talk about where we turned the corner from
Awesome,
there.
man.
All right,
Awesome.
cool.
It was at this point, so I had done that job at Nationwide Children's over the summer, and I think it almost inadvertently, I didn't recognize it at the time, but it like reawoke something within me. And I don't even know what it was or if I recognized it fully, but looking back to 2013, the day I came home from the hospital after that near-death experience, I was in the hospital for 2 months, just rehabbing and learning how to function even a little bit again. The day I came home, I got on my computer, and I don't even know what prompted this. I got on my computer and I looked up, has an amputee ever run a half marathon before? That's 13.1 miles. And in my brain at the time, because I could barely walk 10 steps, and even then it was with the assistance of crutches.
Wow.
And so at the time I was like, this is like totally undoable, totally impossible. But I just want to see if anybody's done it before. So I look it up, and there's like thousands of amputees who have run a half marathon. But to me, where I was like, okay. I was like, well, to me, that's like totally impossible. And so I'd sent an email out to this group of people who were supporting me, friends and family that were down in Georgia. And I told them, again, I don't know why, but I told them someday I was going to run a half marathon. And like, I wasn't really, I had run some 5Ks and stuff before, but I wasn't like a runner by any stretch of the word. And like I said, at this point, I can barely walk, and I can't walk without crutches. And then I never really pursued it past that point. So that was when I'd come home in 2013. Fast forward back to 2017, working that summer at Nationwide Children's, I think reawoke some of that passion, some of that purpose, some of that fire inside of me, just being in that environment. And for whatever reason, I decide that I'm going to start training to run the Columbus Half Marathon.
Wow.
And again, it was one of those pieces that I never really put a lot of like thought or meditation or study into it. I just decided and started doing it. And at this point, I'm still drinking pretty heavily. And I'm training all the wrong ways. I don't know how much Mark's talked to you about running and stuff, but really you're not supposed to. The way I was training is I would go out and I would run as hard and fast and far as I could every single day. It'd be like going in the gym and maxing out every single day.
Yeah.
You know, on the same lift.
Yeah.
It just it's
lot
it's
of
not
passion.
Yeah. There was a lot of passion, a lot of fire,
passion.
but there wasn't any like studious technique to it.
It seems like though that sprinter's mentality got you through your cancer recovery so fast, though,
Yes,
right?
yes. In a way, even though it was the totally wrong way, quote unquote, to train for physical performance, it was what my brain needed.
It was for the mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I was telling guys that yesterday in the gym. It's like, for me, this has always been about fixing my mind.
Right.
Because, again, I'm never going to be the strongest. I'm never going to be the fastest.
Mm-hmm.
And the performance alone in and of itself is not necessarily the thing I'm most passionate about. But for me, physical training of all aspects, especially it being in the gym and distance running, are the two I found are most in line with this. For me, it's that piece that allows me to build that mindset that is just impossible, inconquerable, and that because I can come in with one of the hardest mindsets, and I do that through physical training. It's one of a few different avenues, but it's one of the strongest for me because it's actually, in a weird way, no different than what alcohol became for me.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
something to struggle against. It's something to suffer against, and it's something where I can prove myself.
And you have to sort of like, I just want to sort of like take a second to acknowledge that sensation of post-workout exhaustion and endorphins. It is an incredible feeling.
Oh, yeah.
When you left it all there and you're a bucket of,
Yeah.
I recently said the term, I look like fried bacon. When you look like fried bacon.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're completely fried.
Yeah,
But you're exhausted.
Yeah.
And you're at so much peace.
Yeah.
You're at so much peace in the world. You
Yeah.
feel incredible.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that's what it was for me. And, even while I'm training, I'm still drinking. I can't remember if it was every night at that point, but I was definitely still in the throes of it.
You're transitioning out of that phase,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, and it was just, for whatever reason, I kept going out and I kept running. And again, like I try to think back to it, and I think like, where was my mind? I don't even know where my mind was, and I don't think that I was putting much. Like I didn't have a lot of purpose in what I was doing. I didn't have a lot of drive for what I was doing. It was just like, all of a sudden, I started doing this, and it's something I started doing more and more and more of. And then one day, it was towards the end of September. So the marathon is always the second week of October in Columbus Marathon. It's sponsored by Nationwide Children's Hospital, and it's a very unique race, and it's, I believe, the most powerful race out there because every mile the hospital posts a patient champion or a mile champion, they call it.
Oh,
And so
wow.
it's these kids, I would say they're aged from like maybe 4 or 5 up to
Is that a
13,
common
14,
practice?
15.
Is that a common practice?
They're the only race I'm aware of
That's
that does
touching.
it. There might be more out there, but they're the only one I'm aware of. And they go through massive lengths and strides to make these kids feel as empowered and as special as they possibly
Oh,
can.
that's so cool.
So at every mile, there's a different patient sitting there,
Man, someone deserves a
and their
real
whole
big
family's
attaboy for
there.
that-
They
for
have
that.
this big, massive like community around them.
What a
They've got
great
easy up tents, and you as the runner can go run by and give them a high five, give their family a high five. You can sit and talk with them. You can sit and chat with them, and it just is so moving, so empowering, so motivating. And for me, because they always like. Now they've already picked at this time for the October marathon this year. By this point in June, they've already picked all their mile champions. They're already starting to do PR and publicity about them and their story. They've done professional photo shoots, video shoots. They really go the full 9 yards with it. And so, you as the runner will know who all of these kids are. You're going to see ahead of time. You know their story. You know everything they fought against. And so I remember for that first race, there was a kid who had osteosarcoma. I had Ewing sarcoma. They're both bone cancers. Mine is a little more rare and aggressive, but it was still this thing of there was a kid there that had bone cancer. And I started feeling like, this kid didn't know me at all. I didn't know him at all. But I started having this feeling of, I need to show this kid what is available out there. Like
Yeah.
what can be there for him.
I mean, that is, I resonate with that. I
Yeah.
want to show my kids. I want
Yeah.
to show my kids that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that there's something really special about
Yeah.
that.
And so that was a big initial spark when I saw that. And towards the end of September, so we're just a few weeks away from the race, I'm going out on a run, one of my runs. Again, no strategy, just as hard and as fast as I can go every day. And I have like a 4-mile loop I'm doing. And for whatever reason, this particular day, I had like 6 or 7 hours free. Like I had tons of time free, which in the intensive program I was in, like ever happened. So I had somehow randomly had a large block of time free, and it was a beautiful day out, and I just got out and I started running, and I just felt so good. And so I did that lap twice, and it was 8 miles. And for some reason, at the end of that, I just still felt pretty okay for being 8 miles in. And so I kept going, and pretty soon I rolled over 10 miles, and I rolled over 11 miles. And I realized, like, I could do this today. And just the setting we were in, I felt like I had to. And I'll describe this feeling again in a different scenario a little bit later on, but sometimes I have these feelings of just like when I'm in some of these impossible moments where it just is like, again, that feeling of being totally alone and totally isolated, but it's like finally I'm like, at peace with myself, and I can really like sit and meditate and reflect on it. And that's what this became for me. And so I kept going, and it was after mile 11, I started hurting really, really bad, because I think the longest I'd ever run before this was maybe like 7 miles.
Okay.
So this was a big jump for me.
Yeah.
And I kept going, and by the end, I'm just in agonizing pain.
So has it become a mission? You're hitting your
Yeah,
hitting your 13.
I was like, I can do this today.
Yeah,
I can do
I'm
this
gonna go do my
impossible
13
thing
right
today,
now.
and I'm going to do it here by myself, with myself, before the official big race that I'm running.
Which was how far away?
It was just a few weeks away, And I do think there was a part of it that, like, up until this point, I still wasn't even sure if I could do it or not. And so it was almost this piece of like wanting to prove to myself that I could.
Okay.
Which at the time, was a good thing for me, I believe.
And those, man, I'll tell you, people need to be cautious when they make those bargains with themselves,
Yeah.
because you tell yourself, oh, we're doing this today. And then if you back out of that agreement with yourself, that's damaging to the mindset. When you say, okay, we're hitting this number today, and for whatever reason, whether it's valid or invalid, when you have to back off of that, you're teaching yourself something, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, well, it's something I talked about. I know I talked heavily with Kenny, and I think maybe I talked a little bit with Ryan yesterday too about it. It's changing what the reward is in your brain. So are you, even at that time, I wasn't necessarily like running specifically for 13.1 miles. Like that was my goal, and that was kind of the number that like I was putting on it, but really I was wanting to do the impossible again.
Yeah.
And so what is it you're chasing? Are you chasing that specific number, whether it's weight or miles, for purely that number's sake alone? Or are you chasing doing something that you never dreamed you could do?
Right.
And you're just, the number is merely like a construct of some level of measurement for that.
Yeah.
And beyond all of that, have you learned to fall in love with the process and do the process of being impossible every single day more so than the actual outcome and the end? And it's that old adage of, the journey is always better than the destination. But it's one of those things that's absolutely true. That's why my focus is so much more on being impossible than it is on doing the impossible.
Okay, one more thing. And if you made it this far, I just want to tell you thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for taking time to listen to the podcast. I know that this is something that I want to do more often, and it's just a continual work in progress for me to figure out how to do it. Since you made it to the end, and I know about 20% of you make it to the end, and for the 20%, God bless you. If you could please like, if you could please comment, and if you could please subscribe for the algorithm and all that good stuff. If you haven't already done that, that would sure mean a lot to me and really be helpful for the channel and helpful for the podcast and all that good stuff. So for the buddies, give it a like and a follow and a comment and all that good stuff, and I will see you next time. Thanks for being here. Bye, 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 bye.